Let me paint you a picture of what the 2026 NBA playoffs look like right now, because I genuinely think people haven't fully processed how wild this first round has been. Not just for one team, not just for one player, but for the entire idea of what a superstar is supposed to do in the postseason. Look around the league right now. Really look. Nikola Jokic, the best player in the world by most people's measure, three-time MVP, the guy who makes everything around him better just by existing on the basketball court, is shooting 8 for 30 against Rudy Gobert in the second halves of games this series. Against Rudy Gobert, the man who used to be a punchline for half the basketball internet, is literally turning Jokic into a jump shooter who can't buy a basket when it matters most. Minnesota leads that series 3-2, and Denver is one loss away from going home. Jokic, for all his brilliance, has not been able to close this series out. Then you go to the East. The Detroit Pistons are the #1 seed. They have the best record in the Eastern Conference. They were supposed to be the story of this season, the team that was supposed to announce themselves as legitimate title contenders. And they are down 3-2 to the 8th-seeded Orlando Magic, an 8th seed. They are one game away from one of the biggest first-round upsets in recent memory. And their superstar, Cade Cunningham, who has had a genuinely great series with 27 points in Game 5, cannot get enough help around him to close it out. The Celtics are in a 3-2 series against Philadelphia. Joel Embiid had an appendectomy less than 3 weeks ago. He had surgery. He had his appendix taken out, and he is out here in the playoffs dropping big numbers in Game 5 to keep Philly's season alive, which is incredible. But the point is, Boston is supposed to be the powerhouse of the East, and they are grinding in a close series with a team whose best player just had abdominal surgery. The Knicks trailed the Hawks 1-2 in their series before finally getting it together and going up 3-2. The Cavaliers and Raptors are still going back and forth. This entire first round has been chaos, and the teams that were supposed to be dominant, the heavy favorites, the established stars, the franchises everyone picked, they are all struggling. And right in the middle of all of it is LeBron James, 40 years old, the last of a generation, the guy who has been doing this since before some of these players were in middle school. And he is the only true legacy superstar, the only name that has transcended multiple eras, still standing in these playoffs, trying to will his team forward. And right now, he is struggling in a way that feels different from everyone else's struggles because the stakes of LeBron James struggling are just fundamentally different from anyone else struggling. When Jokic has a bad series, it's a story. When LeBron has a bad game, it feels like the end of something, like a chapter closing that you're not ready to see end yet. Game 4 against Houston was a disaster. You already know the numbers: 10 points, 8 turnovers, 22% shooting. I talked about that in a previous video, and the response was massive because I think people felt the same way I did. Something was off, not just basketball off, but something deeper. The decision-making, the pace, the way he was reading defenses, it didn't look like the LeBron we've watched dominate playoff basketball for 2 decades, and Houston absolutely feasted on it, turning those 24 total Lakers turnovers into 30 points and winning by 19 to tie the series at 2-2. But here is where it gets really interesting because LeBron James responded. He always has a way of making you feel like you overreacted, like you got too deep into the panic. And then he goes out there and does something that reminds you exactly why you spent 20-plus years watching this man play basketball. Game 5 happened. Austin Reeves came back from a 9-game absence, which alone was huge for this team. And the Lakers came out with a completely different energy. The turnovers cleaned up, the decision-making was sharper, and the Lakers now lead the series 3-1. LeBron and the Rockets are heading back to Houston for a potential Game 6 that Los Angeles will try to close out. So why am I still worried? Why does this still feel unresolved in a way that's hard to explain? Because the broader picture of what these playoffs are telling us about LeBron James and his place in this league is something we need to honestly sit with. This is not a normal situation. This is a 40-year-old man, a man who, by every biological rule, should be retired, should be sitting courtside in a nice suit doing color commentary or managing his business empire or literally anything other than playing professional basketball at the highest level against athletes half his age. And he is not just participating, he is the reason the Lakers are in this position at all. Think about what the Lakers would look like without him. Think about that roster without LeBron as the fulcrum, without his passing, without his veteran presence, without the gravity he creates just by standing on the floor that opens things up for everyone around him. They are not a playoff team. They are probably not even close to a playoff team. The fact that they exist in this conversation, that they went up 2-0 in a first-round series and have a chance to close it out, that is entirely because of him. And yet, he had Game 4. He had that game where it looked like the wall might finally be coming for him in a way that even his incredible will and preparation couldn't hold back. And that game mattered because it showed, for one night at least, that there is a version of these playoffs where LeBron James is not able to carry this on his back the way he used to. Here's the question I keep coming back to. What happens when the Lakers get to the second round? Right now, the path forward puts them against the OKC Thunder, the reigning champions, the #1 seed in the West, a team that swept the Phoenix Suns and has Shai Gilgeous-Alexander playing at an absolutely terrifying level. If the Lakers close out Houston and then have to face Oklahoma City, how does a 40-year-old LeBron James, who just went through a grinding first-round series that had moments of real struggle, go up against the deepest and most athletic team in the Western Conference? That's not a pessimistic question. That's just reality. And I think part of what makes this moment so fascinating and so bittersweet is that we are watching LeBron James operate in a window that is closing, not slammed shut. He proved that in Game 5 against Houston, but definitely closing. The nights where he can dominate and control an entire game the way he used to are getting rarer. The bad games like Game 4 are becoming something we have to actually prepare for instead of dismissing as impossible. Look back at the other superstars who were supposed to carry their teams through this first round. Jokic struggling against Gobert's defense. Cade Cunningham watching his Pistons get pushed to the brink by an 8 seed. Jason Tatum grinding through a closer-than-expected series in Boston. Victor Wembanyama, who is the future, who is maybe the most talented player in this league right now, already advanced with San Antonio, but even he had a scary injury scare that reminded everyone how fragile greatness can be. The league is changing. The young players are getting better faster. The defensive schemes are more sophisticated. The athletes coming up are bigger, stronger, faster than ever before. And the veterans, the established names, the guys everyone expected to coast through the first round, they are being challenged in ways that feel genuinely surprising. But LeBron is still here. That's the thing. Through all of it, through the bad game, through the doubts, through everyone writing their think pieces about whether his time is up, he is still here. Still the centerpiece of a playoff team. Still the guy the Lakers need when it matters most. Still the last link to an era of basketball that the sport is slowly but surely moving away from. I don't know how much longer this continues. Nobody does. LeBron himself probably doesn't know, but what I do know is that these playoffs, this first round, this series against Houston, it has shown us something important about where he is right now. He is still great. He is not what he was at 27 or 30 or even 35, but he is still capable of moments, still capable of carrying a team, still capable of making us forget for stretches of a game that we are watching a 40-year-old go up against elite NBA athletes in the most pressurized environment in professional basketball, the last superstar standing. That's what he is right now. The last player from that generation who helped define what a basketball superstar looks like. The gravity, the playoff moments, the burden of carrying a franchise. Still out here doing it while the world around him changes completely. Appreciate it, even when he struggles, even when there are games 4 that make you nervous. Because there will come a time sooner than any of us want to admit when LeBron James is not in these playoffs anymore. And when that day comes, we are going to look back at 2026 and remember that he was still here, still fighting, still the guy, even at 40 years old. And that's going to feel like the end of something much bigger than basketball.